again. This story takes place in Israel, in the city of Tel Aviv, and it is called The Cats on Ben Yehuda Street. It is by Ann Stampler, and the pictures are by Francesca Carabelli. Let's begin. Up and down Ben Yehuda Street, cats, cats, cats. Cats curling up on benches and stretching underneath. Cats licking their paws on porches and climbing in leafy branches. Free cats, fat cats, living on the sidewalk cats. Cats with no collars, for collars show that cats belong to somebody, and street cats belong to no one but themselves. There are a lot of street cats in Tel Aviv. Messy, meowing, useless cats, muttered Mr. Modiano as he unlocked the Tel Aviv Fish Palace each morning. Here's Mr. Modiano, and this is his fish store. All day long, he shooed cats from his doorway. Why do you think the cats hang out at Mr. Modiano's Fish Palace? What do cats like to eat? Yes, you've got it. Fish. They're hoping he gives them some fish, but he never does. But every night, when Mr. Modiano climbed the stairs to his apartment, two cats dozed on a cushion by Mrs. Spiegel's door. Your cats bring more cats, he pointed at Ketsi, Mrs. Spiegel's little gray cat with a pink collar lying on a pillow next to Gatito, a fluffy white cat with no collar at all. So the little gray cat with the pink collar is Ketsi, that's Mrs. Spiegel's cat, and the white cat with no collar is Gatito. He's a street cat, but he is friends with Ketsi. Then Mr. Modiano would give Mrs. Spiegel whatever fish he had left over arranged on a platter just so. This fish is fit for a queen, for you, not for cats, he warned. Thank you, Mrs. Spiegel said. And would you maybe like to come in for a little tea? But Mr. Modiano always said no. Low, low, low. Can you say that? Low, low, low. Low is no in Hebrew. As soon as Mr. Modiano closed his door, Mrs. Spiegel put two fish into a bowl for the two cats to share, because she loved cats, even if Mr. Modiano didn't, and she wants them to have a nice fish dinner. But the apartment building rules said just one cat, so after dinner, only Ketsi could come inside, and Gatito stayed outside on the special pillow that Mrs. Spiegel left for him. Mrs. Spiegel loved Ketsi. She liked the way Ketsi helped her knit, playing with the ball of yarn, and the way Ketsi kept her company in the kitchen when she was cooking. And she liked it when Ketsi licked her face to wake her up in the morning. She liked the way Ketsi was always there. They were good companions, she and Ketsi. One night, Mr. Modiano brought salmon. This is for you, not for your cat, he said, just barely stroking Gatito's back. Thank you, Mrs. Spiegel said. And would you like to maybe come in for a little tea? What do you think Mr. Modiano said? Does he come in for a cup of tea? No. Low, 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 he says. He always said low, low, low. The next night, Mr. Modiano brought a plate of pickled herring. I almost tripped on this wild animal, he muttered, just barely touching Gatito's tail. A nice cat like this would keep you company, Mrs. Spiegel said. Company, Mr. Modiano frowned. What does an old man need with messy, meowing company? Well, would you maybe like to come in for a little tea, she said. But Mr. Modiano always said low, low, low. He would not come in for tea. Every morning, Mrs. Spiegel walked to the beach with Ketsi to breathe in the salty smell of the Mediterranean Sea. Tel Aviv is a beach city by the Mediterranean. As soon as they neared the waves, Ketsi ran home. She didn't like to be so close to the water. She wasn't a water cat. When Ketsi got home from the beach, she and Gatito waited on the porch for Mrs. Spiegel to return until one day when Ketsi wasn't there. "Where is Ketsi?" asked Mrs. Spiegel. Gatito's nose was poking through the railing as if he was looking for Ketsi too. Mrs. Spiegel clomped downstairs. She searched up and down Ben Yehuda Street, between the buildings and under the tables at the Sidewalk Cafe. She asked everyone she met, "Have you seen my Ketsi?" Everyone had seen plump cats and skinny cats, spotted cats and striped cats, but no little gray cat with a pink collar. Everyone pointed to the wrong size, wrong colored, wrong face cats. Wherever she looked, there were cats, but not Ketsi. Mrs. Spiegel dragged her sad self home. Mr. Modiano was leaning out of the door of the fish palace, shooing away cats. "Shoo, shoo, shoo." "What's wrong, silly Gatito?" he said. "He isn't silly," Mrs. Spiegel said. "Ketsi is gone." "Cats," said Mr. Modiano. "Maybe she ran away." Mrs. Spiegel burst into tears and clumped up to her apartment. She tried to eat, but she wasn't hungry. She tried to knit, but without Ketsi in her lap, she just couldn't. When Mr. Modiano came by, she did not invite him in for tea. "I know you have a low opinion of cats," she said, "but my Ketsi would never run away. If not for something terrible happening, my Ketsi would come back." Mr. Modiano left quietly. Then a most unusual thing happened. Mrs. Spiegel heard the noisy putting of a motor scooter in the alley. There sat Mr. Modiano, perched on the back of his scooter. "Don't worry," he called up to Mrs. Spiegel. "Humph," Mrs. Spiegel muttered, as if she would worry about a cat-hating man like Mr. Modiano. She is angry at him. Mrs. Spiegel paced up and down in her apartment. She thought about going to bed, but the idea of waking up without Ketsi there to lick her face made her just want to cry. Then long after midnight, she heard putting in the alley. Outside on the porch, Gatito meowed, and then there was more meowing. Mrs. Spiegel ran down the stairs. Mr. Modiano held a little gray cat with a pink collar, her front legs staring straight out in a stiff white cast. "My Ketsi!" cried Mrs. Spiegel, burying her face in the soft gray fur. Ketsi was home. "Cats," said Mr. Modiano, gently cradling Ketsi as Gatito rubbed against his leg. "I found her at the animal hospital. She must have had a tussle with a car. Silly cat. But she's going to be just fine." So she was hurt and she has a bandage wrapped around her paw, but she is going to be just fine. The next morning, Mrs. Spiegel put Ketsi in a basket to walk to the sea. "We'll get just close enough to smell the salt," she said. But when they got back, Gatito was not on the landing. Not only that, the cushion was gone too. "Oh no," said Mrs. Spiegel. Just then, Mr. Modiano opened his door. Who's inside? Yes, Gatito. Sitting neatly on the cushion in the middle of the living room, just so, was a fluffy white cat with a new blue collar. It was Gatito! "Don't look so surprised," said Mr. Modiano. You think I want to hunt all night for this one too? Mrs. Spiegel smiled. Mr. Modiano, she said, would you like to maybe come in for a little tea? Mr. Modiano said, low, low, low. But then he opened the door even wider and he smiled too. But maybe I could make a cup of tea for you, he said, and a saucer of milk for your cat. And so, as we can see in this picture, we now have two sets of friends. We have the cat friends, looks like they're playing with a ball of yarn. And we have the people friends, Mr. Modiano and Mrs. Spiegel, finally having a cup of tea together. And that is The Cats on Ben Yehuda Street by Ann Stampler. See you next time.